It's super speedway racing in Hampton, Georgia, as we visit the EchoPark Speedway for the fastest, for the most exciting super speedway racing that we have on the circuit, plus a little bit of in-season bracket challenge breakdown. It's all on the back road. Hang with us.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I can't find our intro clip in our little StreamYard thing here. We were just talking beforehand about how StreamYard has not really been our friend lately. And, forgive me, we've got all our different shows there, all our great content here in In Between Media that you should be checking out that usually has better production value than this. We're going to be going through the in-season tournament bracket later tonight, and I'm sure that'll have some clunkiness too. But regardless, here we are. It's the Backroad. Same without the song or not. My name is Elliot Hicks. With me is Rod Villagomez. And we are going to break down the Quaker State 400 from Atlanta, now known as EchoPark Speedway. You'll most certainly hear both of us probably accidentally refer to it as Atlanta about a million times, but either way, we respect the EchoPark sponsorship while also acknowledging our right to continue calling it Atlanta because we've been doing that forever, haven't we, Rob?
Well, and the thing is, too, and it's funny I said it earlier, it's Hampton, Georgia. So it's never really been Atlanta. It's just Atlanta adjacent. And so now we can just drop it all together.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You know, the sponsorship sometimes works, though, because when I grew up, Sonoma was called Infineon Raceway. I have no idea what an Infineon is or what it does, but it still kind of sticks to me as Infineon. So for all the race fans coming up now, they'll think of it as EchoPark, and they won't even really know Atlanta. But anyway, enough about sponsorships. Let's break down how the show is going to work for you tonight. We'll give you a quick Pocono reaction, talk about our bets. If you want a full Pocono breakdown, check out all the great content that Seth and myself and Nicolette and Eric in the background as well did from Pocono Raceway. We did full breakdowns of each of the three races, as well as a cup preview if you feel like watching and seeing how far off or how close we really were at the end there. Of course, do that after the show. Don't leave our live production here. We hope that you're here for the EchoPark Speedway bets as well. Then the Horizon Forecast will break down Atlanta/EchoPark, and we'll give you an extensive look at the in-season challenge bracket. For all four quadrants of it, we'll kind of break down the matchups. I've got quite a few bets that I'm riding on with it. Rod has one in there as well, so we'll talk about that. And then we'll give you our normal parking garage props for the Cup Xfinity races at EchoPark Atlanta, as well as the Truck Series going back to Lime Rock Park. That's exciting, a road course up in the northeastern part of the country. Shout out to everyone who watched the Pocono content, who rolled with us. You know, we had a great time out there and appreciate your support. And we also appreciate your support if you're willing to join the IBT Racing Family Discord. It's really been a great time in there. It gives you access to our exclusive weekly betting model. We're really appreciative. Some of you guys have been swearing by it lately, and it's been working relatively well for us. Gives you conversation with myself, with Seth, with Rod, with Ryan from My Fantasy Race, the expert behind a lot of the stats, as well as all of our great crew in there. Some good conversation in there lately, as I said. Gives you entry into our memorabilia giveaways as well. I'm not sure if Seth and Trav have gotten together yet for that Joey Logano polo, or what our next giveaway is going to be. I think some Michael McDowell stuff. I know Seth was talking about a giveaway post-Pocono. He likes to handle all that stuff, and since I shipped it all to him, we'll let him get past his move, and then we'll get it taken care of. But, Rod, it's definitely been a really good experience in that racing family this year. I've had a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I wish I could be there as much as everybody is, but I love when it has a life of its own, and that sometimes it just happens and you log on and you see a bunch of great conversation, and that's exactly what's going on right now. And, you know, you guys that are building this community, think of it this way too, you're building it from scratch, right? This is a brand new community that you guys are taking ownership of. And so it's fun to watch, and it's fun to watch it evolve as new members join and bring new ideas and new personalities into the mix. So, yeah, I mean, again, not always easy to curate, but it's good to watch it grow.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing is we don't always need to be in there all at the same time. If one of us hops in, somebody asks a question, even just people in the group just chatting about, hey, what do you think of this bet? What do you think of top 10s this week? And the nice thing is, you know, sometimes I kind of hold back and save it for the show and then kind of throw everything in there. Shout out to everyone already in the comments. We got Marcus, of course. Shout out to Marcus, world's biggest Christopher Bell fan, predicting that he'll sweep Atlanta, win the in-season tournament as well. Also doing some help. Throw in your picks in the comments. Who's going to win at Atlanta/EchoPark? Who's going to win the in-season tournament? Who do you have bets on? The odds on the books have really varied more so than I thought. And even one of the favorites, as we'll talk about, I have no idea how they're a favorite. But before we get to that, we've got Nick as well in the comments. Shout out, Nick. John, Blaney wins in Atlanta. Byron wins the tournament. Those aren't bad picks either. No hate for that. And then Stan, just a moment ago, Buschur wins Atlanta. I certainly don't hate that pick either. Shout out as well to everybody listening on either of our audio versions, whether you're live on Talkin' West Tennessee on Saturday night, 101.5 FM. Very appreciative to that audience as well. And the audio version on Apple Podcasts. Be sure to leave us a review, whether it's 5 stars if you love us, whether it's 4, 3, or 2 if we got something to work on. Even if you really hate us, leave us that review, throw it out there for us, and give us something to work toward, because we really want those 5-star reviews. We want this show to be just as good as Rod's NASCAR gambling podcast and all his activities he's got going on as well.
Stop. I love this show equally as much. Don't make me pick.
Yeah, that's true. We don't need to make you pick your favorite child. They're all special. Just as every race weekend is special, but Pocono, certainly the most special of all of ours, because we've gotten to be there in person the last 3 years. We'll crack open in the rear view with that. As I mentioned, from the Pocono weekend, we have extensive race breakdowns that Seth and I did at the track each night. Got a really good spot up on top of one of the viewing areas, stood up, had the track and the scoring pylon behind us. Thought it was a really good scene to set. But congratulations to Lane Riggs and Connor Zilisch, both of whom we got some exclusive questions with. Shout out to Eric working behind the scenes on the PR there. And shout out as well to Chase Briscoe being able to stretch that fuel there. Again, special episodes. Go back after you're done watching this. Go and check those out. We break down all those races very extensively. The one thing I will ask you, Rod, is what did you think of the racing at the Tricky Triangle, and how did your bets do?
So the bets, let's skip over that part because my bets didn't have enough fuel in the tank to outlast all of that stuff. I had Denny outright, which obviously is a heartbreaker when you're thinking that
we were riding a few Denny bets too. Got the top 5, but not the. I think Seth had the top 5, but not the outright.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, Logano had a bad day. I was on him as a top 5. Brad Keselowski obviously squeaked into a top 10, so hit that one. Bubba over Ross. Bubba just had a really rough day. And then I had Eric Jones as a top 10. I had the wrong Legacy Motor Club car in the top 10. But yeah, I mean, listen, overall, I thought the racing at Pocono was acceptable. I know there's a lot of people that definitely don't share that opinion because they're pissed off that Chase Briscoe was able to make a gas tank stretch as long as he could and hold off a faster car by all rights and accounts. And the fact that there was no green flag passes in the race. I guess that's what Jeff Gluck was saying. But
yeah, one green flag pass for the lead. It was Bowman on Logano early in stage 2.
Yeah. And so I don't know what that means to a lot of people. You know, I know that I was riveted only because I've got stuff riding on it, obviously. But like as a casual race fan, what does that do for you? You know, are you as interested in the strategy of it all, or do you just want to see cars pass each other lap after lap after lap? You know, I don't know what people want anymore. I really don't.
Yeah, I think it was one of those races where the guys like us who are really in it, we've got some things that we can pick out and can be interested in. But for a casual fan, you don't see cars pass a lot. I totally understand it's not that interesting until you get to the end where it's like, oh boy, the leader might run out of fuel here, and we've got a bunch of guys waiting to pass it. But even Denny Hamlin said post-race, even when he tried to go up and pass him, just the dirty air for these cars just really kills the momentum there. The betting card was great for me, though. Second best weekend of the year, and it was mainly because of bets I added Sunday morning. Before we got to that, I hit the Daniel Hemrick top 5 at plus 280 in the truck race. Got the Zilisch outright, the vibes of Dale Jr. That was the most exciting part of the weekend. And only because of those 2311 brake rotor issues that Michael McDowell also had was I able to hit the Chase Elliott over Tyler Reddick that I had pre-race at plus 130. But Sunday morning, there's lightning in the sky. The storms are waiting to see how the delay is going to go. I had 2 bets. Chase Elliott for a top 5 after he ran so well on Xfinity at plus 250. That netted me a bit. And then FanDuel. We talked about this. FanDuel left a plus 850 out there for a John Hunter Nemechek top 10. Every other book was anywhere from plus 250 to plus 400. Both Seth and I jumped on it, and we both hit it when that 42 car ran 6th. Your boy Jimmy Johnson over there at Legacy. I mean, every week we're talking about them and just shocked at how the speed is. I think we can't be shocked anymore, even though you're right. I also had the Jones top 10 initially and picked the wrong Legacy car. It's always one is faster than the other, and the other is kind of a little bit behind. But still, JHN was 6th, and Eric Jones, I think, was like 14th. That's a great day for them compared to how they were running a year ago.
Yeah, and really, honestly, I think the only reason I picked Jones was because I think Cody already had Nemechek in the dock before I got there, so I've just picked the other Legacy car. But I mean, it almost is beneficial for you to place bets on both of these guys now on a every week basis because one's going to hit or maybe both hit, and you're holding a double ticket on it. But yeah, Legacy, they've come a long way in terms of what you can count on out of them. And I think that is going to show up more as the season progresses. Whatever Jimmy did over the course of the off season, take, sole ownership of the whole place, whatever he did, I want more because I love you, Jimmy. And I want to see more out of this team, but it's encouraging to watch this team kind of grow.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Good leadership, good hires over there. John Nemechek told us, and that venture capital money is going to do a bit too. Speaking of money changing hands, Rick Ware Racing is now majority owned by TJ Puchyr. If you recognize that name, it was he and Jeff Dickerson that co-founded Spire Motorsports back in, I think it was 2018 or 19 was the first year they ran. He cashed out of there last year. When they also got venture capital money, does wonders. He buys it back into Rick Ware Racing as the majority owner. Rick Ware will stay on as a partner there. Cody Ware is going to stay in the 51 for now, and all current Ware employees are going to stay there. But it seems like Puchyr is the majority owner now, and he says he wants Rick Ware Racing to be 3 cars by 2027. That's 3 full-time chartered entries. My question is, how in the world is that going to happen where they're standing right now? They have 1 charter, a second leased out to RFK, or they're sticking to that charter being leased out there. They're in a current battle with Legacy as to that whereabouts of that second charter. But Puchyr is really pushing big time for this team. I mean, 3 full-time cars by 27, that would really be insane.
Does he know something we don't about 2311? Maybe, I don't know.
Could be.
Maybe he's waiting. Maybe he's waiting on the final word on what's going to happen to those guys, and then at some point snatch up those 2 charters. Who knows? That is a very lofty goal. I applaud him for having goals. We'll have to see how this all plays out, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt about it. And it's if they're going to keep Ware on as a majority partner, that's great. But this really could be for the team to take the step that we all wanted them to take. They had Justin Haley and Kaz Gralla run most of the races last year. It was like, all right, they're really trying to do something this year. They scale back. They put Cody Ware back in the car. I want to throw something out there respectful about Cody Ware. I don't really have anything last full-time car and points, but we're not coming here to crap on Rick Ware Racing. We got plenty of time to do that. But in any case, it'll be interesting to watch those changes. And you're right, the charter deal, definitely something to watch. A new development that came out in that this week is that a judge ordered the non-suing cup teams to provide some financials to NASCAR to help along the case. And what they're asking for is the top line financial data, which is basically just your revenue and your costs and net profit and loss. But it's on an anonymized average per car basis dating back to 2014. That's a long time, but NASCAR wanted everything. They wanted the exact numbers for this car makes this team makes that. So it's almost a little bit of a win that it has to be anonymous and everything like that. We know that Colleague has already submitted those financials to NASCAR. And what this tells me, obviously they want it for the case and everything like that, but there's been so many rumblings about the France family maybe wanting to jump in and field a car. And I think that could be the big takeaway from here is that they're trying to figure out how much is it going to be to run this race team that we plan on running, in the very near future.
Well, for Colleague, it's not hard to hand in a one receipt when it's all you got, right? I mean, that's like if somebody asked me for my bank statement, fine, I'll give you the what's in my wallet. That's about what you're going to get out of me. But no, honestly, to me, this is, they're all accumulating what they need for the thing. And I think TK actually brings up a pretty decent point too about somehow forgetting about front row and all of that. And I know that, the MJ and Hamlin thing takes and makes it about 2311. But honestly, TK, I mean, front row, yeah, but the real more powerful of this is 2311. How that goes is really what's going to dictate the rest of what happens.
Yeah, and shout out to Bob Jenkins. He's got some money, obviously. A lot of the I think he made his money in franchising like Taco Bell's and A&W's and Long John Silver's and stuff. But there's a difference between that and what Michael Jordan's pocketbook has got after all this years with the Chicago Bulls. Obviously, I'm sure they're happy to have front row along, but this really is basically Jordan, Curtis Polk, Denny Hamlin, Jeffrey Kessler, 2311s, and Jordan's bankroll lawyer. And Bob Jenkins, thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate having a couple other, at least one other team to support our cause here.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, who else is in the room that doesn't feel like they want to, and they're bringing them along. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. Obviously, again, with all of this stuff circling around, we were talking about it earlier today on the show, the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, that this silly season coming up is going to be much, much sillier than the last one that we just put to bed.
Man, especially if the charters are vacated and you have 6 pretty talented drivers, even though TK makes a good point. Both kind of mid-tier teams so far. None of their drivers have won a race, but there's some pretty talented drivers in those cars. That'll be exciting to watch and something that we don't have the time or the bandwidth to put on our tinfoil hat and do a silly season breakdown tonight. That'll be something that we all do come November after we've crowned the champion, depending on what the news is there. Some other small news pieces here. The Hendrick number 17 Xfinity team, of course, Chase Elliott ran, I believe, 4th at Pocono last weekend. They found a violation on that car, took it back to the R&D center. They penalized them for a main frame rail conical receiver violation. That suspends crew chief Adam Wall for the next 3 races. The team was also docked points and a $40,000 fine. But honestly, if you're going to really push the limits here, you may as well do it in a part-time shared driver Xfinity car, where I don't even think that they had any plans to go out there and run the next 3 races. So a pretty easy suspension when you had no plans of going to the track.
But is it the next 3 races that they run, or is it the next 3 races on the schedule?
I do believe it's the next 3 races on the schedule. I had kind of thought that too, but an article said through Sonoma. So it would just be the next 3 races on the schedule, which, next gens are a lot different than Xfinity, but obviously Hendrick always on the cutting edge of innovation, let's just say.
Oh, we've heard that before. What's Jimmy Johnson got under that hood? What kind of stuff is he cheating with today? No, I get it. And you're right too. If you're going to do something, do it in a car that's not going to see the track for the next 3 weeks. It's playing checkers playing chess while everybody's playing checkers. Yeah,
and $40,000 to Hendrick Motorsports is dropping the bucket for sure. That's the cost of doing business for those boys down in Concord. Also on the spotters stand, Tab Boyd was spotting for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. through Mexico City. Had an incident down there that he tweeted about. Hayek let him go, and Christopher Bell and Joe Gibbs Racing snap him up. He's a guy that's been around the garage a while, spotted for William Byron for a good bit. So a guy that kind of, he has one situation kind of fall apart and then another pop up. We had Bell spotter leave. I think was it before or after the All-Star race that his normal spotter left? New guy not working out so well, or at the very least, you get somebody's experience as Tab Boyd. You're going to bring him in when you get the opportunity to get him on the cheap, I guess.
We call that failing up in what he ended up doing.
I wasn't going to use that phrase, but that is kind of what happened.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's when one door opens or when one door closes, another opens, and apparently that one was a pretty lucrative door.
And that is the way of the world nowadays. In any case, let's go ahead and look ahead now in this week's Horizon Forecast.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
All right, hope everyone got me there. I was a little slow there. But in any case, the Horizon Forecast this week. Before we get into the in-season tournament, we will talk about who's all going to be entered in the fields here. The Cup Series has a full 40 this week. That's exciting. They got the 01 of Corey LaJoy as one of the part-time cars there. 66 of David Starr. Shout out to Garage 66 for coming back in. BJ McLeod back in the number 78 as well. And Connor Zilisch in the 87. Trackhouse giving the Pocono Xfinity winner an extra run out there. In the Xfinity Series, 38 total. The only one extra worth betting on, Eric Almirola in the Joe Gibbs 19. In the Truck Series out at Lime Rock, 35 trucks. Brent Cruz, the youngster, in the number 1 for Tricon. Jordan Taylor, the sports car driver, going to run in the number 7. Josh Balicki in the number 44 for Nice. I bet Seth would be excited. He had Balicki in the DGM car, I believe, or either that or the SS Greenlight. One of the cars in Mexico that he definitely didn't like as much as he likes those Nice trucks. So, Seth, if you're listening, go throw a top 10 on Balicki when they put those out, if they put those out. Cam Waters, Australian Supercars driver, back for another run in the 66 for ThorSport. He'll be exciting to watch as well. In terms of the weekend schedule, starts on Friday, 1:05 p.m. Truck Series practice on FS2. Then you have from Atlanta, 3 p.m. qualifying for Xfinity on the CW app. 5:05 p.m. Cup qualifying. This will air linear television on True TV. We've shifted. Prime has shifted away now. It'll be True TV. And then streaming on Max, where you can find all the practice and qualifying streaming there, as well as the races, as I'll get to in a second. Friday night, 7:40 p.m., green flag for the Xfinity Focused Health 250 on the CW. Then Saturday, nice little doubleheader. We don't really get a Trucks and Cup doubleheader that often. Starts off 9:30 a.m., Trucks practice and qualifying on FS1. 1 p.m., the LiUNA 150 on Fox. Big Fox. Mike Joy is going to be in town, at least doing a pre-race hit, if not calling the race. I think he might be a little better than Jamie Little, but that's neither here nor there. Then we got 7:19, the estimated green flag time for the Quaker State 400 from EchoPark Speedway. The main broadcast on TNT. There's also an altcast that'll air on True TV that'll have Jeff Burton and Larry McReynolds focusing on the in-season challenge matchups and storylines, bringing in special guests. Both of those will also stream on Max. Your stage lengths for the Cup race, 60, 100, and 100. An exciting weekend all in all. And after this, we are halfway through through the full season in the Cup Series. Only a few more to the playoffs. It should be an exciting weekend. Are you going to check out that altcast at all, Rod, or are you just going to stick to the traditional AA Dale Jr. and Steve Letarte?
I may just stick all the way on the alt cast because I feel like I've heard enough of them. To me, I don't always get to listen fully anyways. So I think I'll just go on the alt cast just to see what they got to offer because, for me, it's like sometimes I get to catch what the announcers are saying. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm watching it on mute. Sometimes I'm not. So I think this weekend I'll check out the alt cast just to see what it's all about. And, because I can always hear all the other guys every other week.
Yeah, good point. And I do believe that'll be a thing all throughout the 5 races. I'm assuming they'll keep it TNT, True TV, or then just stream it on Max. If you're of my generation, at least, Rod, I don't know if you do a lot of the streaming. I talked to some people at Pocono and around the surrounding racing community that were not too happy about the Prime thing. They were having difficulties adjusting to it. So the linear cable option is nice for the old school fans, but for me, it'll be way easier to stream it on Max than it will be to pull up some certain, something on my Fire Stick, and we won't go into that. For the linear cable there.
I'll probably stream it on Max as well because I'm going to be out of town, so it'll probably be easier for me to stream it on my phone.
Great point. And that's what I wish we had when I was a kid. I grew up one TV in the house, and there was no streaming. And if there was something else on the TV on Sunday, you weren't getting to see that NASCAR. I'd have to get out the old boombox radio and hope I could get whatever the local affiliate had. I love the new era. It certainly makes it much easier nowadays. And of course, the fun part this weekend, the in-season challenge is beginning. Each quadrant of the bracket, as we'll show you in a minute, we'll go through the Atlanta, Chicago, and Sonoma races. The final 4 will then happen at Dover in the championship round at Indianapolis. While we were at Pocono, my main storyline that I was asking drivers was relating to, of course, the Pocono stuff. What's tricky about this track? Pun very much intended. Seth was able to ask a couple of drivers what they thought about the in-season challenge. Here's a quote from Ross Chastain, AJ Allmendinger, and John Hunter Nemechek regarding how they feel about the in-season tournament and how much they'll be paying attention to it.
Looking ahead to next week, will the in-season tournament play a factor into your strategy race by race over the next 5?
I don't think so. I can't try any harder.
Yeah. Will you pay attention to it?
I'm sure they'll let me know. We'll know ahead of time who I'm paired up against for each week, and if we are able to move on. But yeah, we'll know about it. I'll know about it ahead of time.
No, I won't even think about it, honestly. Okay. So awesome. It's I think it's a cool thing to have during the season. Gives us something else to talk about and kind of race for. But at the end of the day, in the race, no, it won't change anything about what I'm doing.
I'm sure you'll know the guys that you're racing against, right? Not really, I guess, paying attention to the whole leaderboard, but you'll know who you're racing against. You want to go beat them. To have a shot to win $1 million at the end of the day for an in-season tournament is pretty cool.
So kind of a mixed bag there of opinions. JHN saying that he'll pay attention to it, but it's not really at the forefront of his mind, while AJ Allmendinger kind of threw it aside. Ross Chastain, I feel like, was the most insightful there, saying he's already trying as hard as he can to get every spot that he can. It doesn't matter if one particular guy that he passes is some tournament opponent for him.
And really what this boils down to is that this is sort of this is for them, right? I don't think this is for them. Yeah, there's $1 million waiting at the end of it, but this is more for the fans to get them involved a little more heavily. This is sort of a gimmick that they came up with to make us pay a little more attention to what's going on and to talk something else for us to talk about, not necessarily the drivers. Because like you said, like Ross Chastain said, what else am I going to do other than try to beat them every single week, right? We're already trying to beat them for points. We're always trying to beat them. And because this is so spread out over 4 or 5 races, like they don't even know, like this is not the all-star race where $1 million is at the end of the race. This is at the end of a bracket, and it's just sort of constructed. So I like Ross Chastain for that. I love my Spirit driver, AJ Allmendinger, saying, "No, I don't even care." I guess maybe that's because he probably doesn't expect to win the $1 million. But at the same time, even if he did, right, I don't think he would really try for it. It wouldn't change the way he drives. And I think, like you said, Ross Chastain encapsulated it best. It doesn't change how we drive at all.
Yeah, and for a guy like Allmendinger, though, I love how this starts at a real wild card race. You get the super speedway drafting track style from Atlanta to start it off. And then you have, of course, 2 road courses that really throw a wrench into things. And then you get to Dover and Indianapolis for the last 2. Again, far more traditional tracks that you see there. And so when you look at the current odds board, the 2 books I looked at, BetMGM and FanDuel, they kind of varied a little bit. BetMGM has Denny Hamlin as the favorite at plus 650, Kyle Larson at 7-1, Byron and Bell at plus 750, Chase Elliott plus 775, and Reddick at 10-1, everyone else back there. You go to FanDuel, they have Byron and Hamlin as co-favorites at 550, Larson's at 650, Bell and Reddick plus 750, Briscoe and Chase Elliott at 10-1 there. Denny Hamlin being a favorite, I feel like he maybe can get through the super speedway round, but I feel like he's been pretty poor on the road courses. I feel like him surviving Chicago and Sonoma, even with how the bracket sets out for him, as we'll look at in just a second, I just don't see Denny Hamlin being anywhere close to a favorite.
And that's where the rub is. And I know a lot of people, I've seen a lot of Denny Hamlin brackets right now. And I know he's the one that actually came up with this bracket altogether, right? It was his brainchild. However, there were varying reports on whose actually it was. But yeah, once you get out of the super speedway, I mean, Ty Dillon, it's a super speedway. Ty Dillon could very well go ahead and grab him if something happens to Denny. But Denny's always a good super speedway guy where he'll just hang back and he'll keep himself out of trouble and then be there at the end. So yeah, that one. Chicago, yeah, we'll talk about where he shakes out after that and who his next matchup could be. But I feel like he can beat either of those in Chicago. Sonoma, yeah, I don't know. It's tough. I feel like it's tough for Denny to get all the way to the end. And I have my thoughts on that as well. So yeah, it's definitely, but I agree with some of the folks in the chat in a sense of where we're going with this.
Yeah, as you look here, here's the full bracket setup. Again, we've got images of each quadrant here that we'll go through, and we'll start with that top left. Denny Hamlin, the 1 seed against Ty Dillon, the 32 seed. And that's the craziest part is this is a situation where Denny Hamlin gets into trouble at a super speedway, gets into a wreck, not of his cause. Ty Dillon goes and runs 28th, but Denny Hamlin's DNF and he wins this matchup. That's the beauty and the craziness of the wild card here. The winner of that matchup will face Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski. And then you've got Alex Bowman against Joey Logano, and then Bubba Wallace and Daniel Suarez. Anywhere in particular that you want to start here? Any matchups tickle your fancy over another?
Well, so I actually like this Suarez and Wallace one that we're looking at here at the bottom of that one. Obviously, we know Daniel Suarez, a perennial second-place finisher at Atlanta, right? Second win, second. He's definitely been solid at Atlanta all season long. Or all of his career, rather. And for Bubba Wallace, this has not been his track. He hasn't necessarily put together good finishes, and I'll talk about him in a little bit too when we bring up one of the matchups from the race itself. And it just, I can see Suarez making it past this into the next round easily. And in fact, I almost can see him making it to the next round after that between Bowman and Logano. But I really, really love, and really what makes this better too, Elliot, is that Suarez, right? You get those differential points, bonus points rather, if the lower seed actually beats the higher seed. So you'll get more points from Suarez beating Wallace in this round than you would a Bowman beating a Logano.
Got it. Okay, I haven't looked at a bracket yet, or I haven't filled out a bracket yet online, but that is a really nice wrinkle too that it'll add to your points if you pick the upset winner. And it's wild because the seeding was not done based on point standings; it was done based on the last few races. So your point leader, William Byron, I think is an 18 seed when we get over to the other side of the bracket. I think that there's two really good matchups here, Wallace and Suarez and Busch and Keselowski, because all four of those drivers are going to be going all out to try and get a win here. We know that Kyle Busch has not won in almost 2 years, knows that this could be one of his chances to win. And same with Brad Keselowski. It's been a miserable season for the 6 car, but the super speedways are up there. I'll mention a stat that I had picked for later, but Keselowski has P2 finishes at each of the 3 super speedways in his tenure with RFK. And we know that Kyle Busch has kind of almost sort of become a favorite at these super speedways. It's a 16-17, but I call it the most interesting, if we equate it to March Madness. The 8-9s are sometimes real interesting. And that's definitely going to be one to watch here as to who, in all likelihood, is going to go face Denny Hamlin when we get to the Chicago Street Course. Wallace and Suarez kind of are going to feel the same way. Bubba Wallace been, quite a long time since he's won a race, 2022 Kansas. He hasn't won a race in the 23 car since his first win all the way back Talladega with the rain out. Again, Daytona, Talladega, better for him super speedway-wise than Atlanta. Suarez has got the stats here to really back it up. And in terms of Bowman and Logano, we know Logano, king of super speedways with Penske. Bowman has been underrated as well. Atlanta has run up front a lot of the last couple of races here, got involved in a crash in the spring. And Logano, too, again, we know Penske's going to be so good. This is the first one that I'm on, and you'll never guess who I picked here. At plus 145, I threw a little bit on Bowman. And it's just, so there's some of these odds here, as I'll mention, that at a place like Atlanta, obviously you're going to have your favorites at the super speedways, but it is still super speedway drafting track style where anything can really happen. So to have some of these at big time plus money, I think the plus 145, I have a plus 150 as well. some pretty big numbers for some relatively even matchups, which I think that the 48 and the 22 is going to be more even than people think.
And I think what's great about this too is that now in the super speedway configuration, in the drafting configuration, all these plus money bets are not bad bets because anything can happen. And we know that Atlanta in the pantheon of super speedways doesn't always race like a true super speedway, because we do see guys that don't want to lead. We do see it kind of string out a little bit or get too wide for a little while. And then toward the end of a stage, maybe toward when it's time to get going, then we'll start to see the people pop out. So we don't see a whole lot more than we see on normal super speedways. So, but that doesn't mean that stuff can't happen, and stuff does happen, right? So I like that you can take these long shots at plus money and they stand a pretty damn good chance of actually panning out for you.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I was looking at some comments here. TK, one element in season, as drivers do think about it, may not to push certain lines. If it would help their first round rival, depends on how much choice is on offer. That's interesting. Yeah, I guess it would be kind of, I feel like making a push or something like that would be more akin to Daytona Talladega, but certainly could be happening here. Stan mentioning the chances of picking a perfect bracket and how astronomical that is. And I think that for a fan, you do need to have a perfect bracket to get the million. There's no other stipulation there. It would be nice if you could kind of like throw in a random drawing, pick, okay, this guy enrolled for this guy, and if this guy wins the tournament, then the fan wins $1 million also. But we couldn't do that. NASCAR's got money tied up in other things. Stan bringing up a good point as well that I brought up after Mexico City. Wallace no longer incompetent at road courses. If he can get by Suarez and draw Logano, he does have a shot. In terms of this quadrant, forgive me if I'm putting you on the spot here. Who you got?
Which one? The
just in terms of the whole quadrant that we have on the screen, one of these drivers is going to make it to the Final Four at Dover. Who's your pick?
I have it as let's see, what do I have going on? All the way through this quadrant, I've got the 99. I've got Daniel Suarez.
Okay, not bad. My thoughts were either Logano or Kyle Busch. I feel like it's just one of those deals where Logano, even whether he means to or not, turns it up when it matters. And Kyle Busch, one of those guys that, road courses we saw, Mexico City, of course, wiped out in the rain there, but Coda had a really good run. He gets by Brad. Road courses could go well for him, gets by Hamlin, and then if he can get by drivers over there, could be fun to watch, just as Rowdy always has been throughout his career. As we move to the bottom left of the bracket, again, in each of these quadrants, with these 8 drivers, there will be one of them that does make it to the Final Four at Dover. This one, of course, the bottom left would be facing who we just watched in the top left. In this quadrant, you got John Hunter Nemechek and Josh Berry, Chase Elliott against Austin Dillon, Ross Chastain against Eric Jones, and then Christopher Bell against Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And I'll start at the bottom there. Bell, the 4 seed, Stenhouse Jr., the 47. I've got the 47 car of Stenhouse. He's also plus 145 at Bet365 over Christopher Bell. We know that Bell's been strong at super speedways. We know that he won this race in the spring. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., he is a man driven motivated, whether it's to go and wreck the 77 or to go and put out the best performances they can for the single car team that has run above average, above expectations this season. And at a super speedway, at a drafting track, we know the 47's been solid. Again, more at Daytona Talladega than in Atlanta, but this is a really trendy upset pick for me. I like the 47 over the 20.
And it's not bad either. And just so you know, I've got mine filled out here, guys. So that's why if I'm looking down, it's because I'm looking at my bracket that I've already filled out. It's not a bad pick. Like I said, it's a super speedway. So there's no, I can't sit here and tell you that you're wrong, because all it takes is for Christopher Bell to not have a good day and the 47 wins. I will counter, though, is that I have Christopher Bell advancing, and only because he is a driver that needs something to happen, and something to happen quickly, right? He won those 3 races. Everybody was crowning him the champion already, which was fine. But since then, it's been sort of a stalled, and he's found his way to the front every once in a while. He's been able to sustain some decent runs and get a couple of decent finishes. But like that, you expect more out of the 20 team. And if you think Denny Hamlin's going to be good on this track, obviously people think Ty Gibbs is going to be good at this track. All of these Briscoe, they feel like all these Gibbs cars are going to be good. Well, Bell's part of that run. And as good as we think Stenhouse is going to be, I still I don't know. I'm not ready to crown him a super speedway god yet, but I do think that this is one where the 20 can get the better of the 47.
And I think, though, with Bell, to contrast that a little bit, he and Larson, with all the similarities that they share, they just sometimes have weeks where they're just kind of out to lunch. You would think like, oh, where's Bell? Normally he's top 10 here. Or I was expecting Chris Bell to run better, just the same as we've been seeing with Larson for about the past month. and it just doesn't happen. So again, that's, you know me, I'm a sucker for the good plus money bets, and especially at a drafting track, I have a few. One that I was really tempted on was I was trying to look for a way to bet Jones over Chastain. I just couldn't find it. Chastain's stats are too good at Atlanta. But I did go with another upset here, John Hunter Nemechek. Well, it wouldn't be an upset as the seedings go, but in terms of the odds, John Hunter Nemechek over Josh Berry. We'll talk about Berry later in that he's a pretty good super speedway guy too. He's in that Penske equipment. He'll be kind of running up front. But with this legacy momentum, man, I'm just really thinking that this 42 car is going to continue the super hot run that they have. If I didn't mention the number, I got that at plus 135 on Caesars in favor of the 42.
Yeah, and for me, it just comes down to Josh Berry really not being all that great at Atlanta at all. 25th, 28th, 29th. There's not really a lot that tells me that Josh Berry is going to get a good, solid finish. I know Wood Brothers has been a much better racing team for him, it feels like, than the SHR cars back then. But still, I mean, John Hunter Nemechek, like you said, he's running hot right now. And that whole legacy club is actually running hot. So I'll put my money. I got him going as well in this bracket.
In terms of this particular quadrant, though, I feel like it would be a shock if it's anybody but Chase Elliott to advance to the Final Four. Only driver left who has not yet finished outside the top 20. Who knows if the 9 car even comes anywhere close to winning any of these 3 races, but I think he could very easily rip out 3 straight, top 7s and pretty easily clear this quadrant of the bracket.
Yeah, I said even earlier this week, too, when these first came out, that Elliott had the much easier path out of any of these favorites to get to the Final Four, and he hit it. Spoiler alert, he is in my Final Four. And honestly, there's no way you can tell me that he can't race his way in there over the competition. These guys, as hot as some of these guys have been, it's Chase Elliott, right? He's basically been hotter.
Yeah, even if he had some better competition, I still feel like they have just been the model of consistency. Of course, they haven't got the win yet, but they're something like plus 160 on the playoff cut line. We know that Chase Elliott has the speed, and they'll be fine one way or another. I think it's a pretty easy path forward for him. As we move to the top right of the bracket, you got Chase Briscoe and Noah Gragson, Ryan Preece, William Byron, Ryan Blaney, and Carson Hocevar, and then Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick, one of the more intriguing ones. I've got a few bets on these matchups. I feel like we were just talking about Larson. I got to start with Larson versus Reddick, and I went Reddick. It's only plus 105 on Caesars. His line somewhere anywhere from a pick'em to about that plus 105, plus 110 for the 45. But even though Reddick has not had a couple of great weeks either, this is just a combo of Larson has not been good lately, and Larson is generally not good at super speedways. Feels like the 45 car plus money over a slumping Larson was a good spot to put the funds on this particular matchup.
Well, for me, I'm thinking that maybe, just maybe, that third place that we witnessed earlier in the season from Kyle Larson may be a signal of good things. No, I'm just kidding. Look, they could very well end up, and I'm only picked Larson over Reddick, because I truly believe that Reddick has been having, and that 2311 team has just been really horrendous lately. And all Larson needs to do, in my opinion, is score a top 20 in this race to maybe beat Reddick, because I think Reddick could end up getting bounced out of this race a little early. It's not been his cup of tea, like you said. Tyler Reddick has actually been, if we look on our friends over at iFantasy Race, the 24th best driver in terms of average finishes on this track with a 20.6. 19th, 6th, 30th, 27th, 5th, 29th, 28th for Tyler Reddick. Not glowing endorsement of his abilities at Atlanta. So I think Kyle Larson doesn't need to win, obviously. I don't think he's going to, but I think a good solid top 20-ish finish will be good enough to get him past Reddick.
Yeah, and looking now, I realize I have bets on 3 of these 4 matchups, and they're my 3 least confident bets that I have of the weekend. So Larson Reddick's kind of a toss-up. This one, Ryan Preece is my biggest number, plus 150 over Byron. And it really makes no sense because Byron's been so good at the new Atlanta, especially. And, points leader, best in the next gen, how he ended up the number 18 seed is kind of beyond me. But maybe one of those deals where Preece racing with some momentum. He's a guy that's races hungry every week. If you looked on our social media, I asked him how it felt to be one of those guys that for years with Preece, it seemed like, man, just give this kid a chance and it'll work out for him. And he's run well this year. And he says, with myself, as well as another interview that he did recently, kind of on the same topic, man, I just go out there and run every race like it's my last. I go out there and, if you just look at my stats on Racing Reference from before, you might think I'm a failure if I had to move back to Connecticut. But just the fight that he's taking to get here, it's been nice to see them run well this year. Like I said, maybe I'm definitely a little overzealous on that plus 150, but that's the beauty of the drafting tracks and the super speedways is it's just one snap of a finger like that, and you can make things happen. Just as I think Noah Gragson could do against Chase Briscoe. Briscoe's got the 2 seed Gregson plus 145 on Bet365. And Gregson, this is all basically entirely based on the fact that Gregson's one of about 5 guys that I can realistically see. Briscoe's running 2 spots ahead of him. There's only a little bit of time left to go. He may get up there and nudge that number 19, kind of move him out of the way a little bit. Briscoe said on the Dale Jr. download earlier this week, he had already texted with Gregson a little bit, and Gregson kind of joked, hey, you've already got the win, so you're in the playoffs. I'm just going to go out there and junk you on lap 1 and take my win. I don't think it's going to go that far, but Gregson definitely one of those guys that I feel like I don't think he'll be the kind of guy to play it sheepishly and be like, I'm not worried about it. He'll say, yeah, I want to go out there and win the $1 million and give all my fans a reason to cheer. Starts with a tough road against the number 2 seed of Chase Briscoe. Finally got that monkey off his back, getting the win at Pocono, but he's definitely a guy that, you can not lose his marbles, but he can get a little wild out there, that number 4.
Well, and the thing that I love the fact that it does kind of give these guys, right, the 4, maybe the 60s, but some of the guys that you don't kind of got lost in the shuffle, a reason to actually get up there and get a little more excited. While the guys like Allmendinger and, Chastain and Nemechek may not be caring about it, you better believe Gregson's caring about it, because $1 million is pretty nice for him and his team. And not just that, but, no one's really talking about Gregson right now because he hasn't been performing all that well on the track. So yeah, he's going to go out there and try to nail it. In fact, I got him moving on as well over Briscoe, who might be a little bit, I don't want to say overconfident, but maybe a little Pocono hangover and coming out into this race sort of, a little bit less than what he was last week.
Definitely realistic. And so we talked a lot about the other 3 matchups, but probably Blaney and Hocevar will be up there battling for the win and the win in this matchup, the 12 and the 77. I feel like that the 12 and the 24 going to be real close there in the end. I've got the 12 over the 24 in the final 4 here. Who do you got?
So I'm taking obviously Blaney over Hocevar because that's just
right.
brand.
That's just Rod. We wouldn't be Rod Villagomez if you didn't fade Hocevar.
I'm wondering if I'm going to go talk to him at Sonoma. I probably need to, but I've got the 24 moving on actually all the way. So the 24 is going to go to the final 4. And yeah, in fact, he's the winner of my bracket. So it's the 24 all the way.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. And he makes a lot more sense as a favorite than Denny Hamlin. And this is the bottom right of the bracket now as we move to it. It's kind of neat how one of these guys is going to be in the final 4, because you wouldn't normally think of any of these guys as, he's going to be a slam dunk final 4 guy. You got McDowell and Allmendinger on top here, Gibbs and Haley, Zane Smith and Austin Cindric, and then Chris Buescher and Todd Gilliland. And I've been mentioning a lot of plus money bets. I did take a favorite and a heavy one. Chris Buescher minus 140 on Caesars over Todd Gilliland. And you've seen it the last couple of weeks, and you could visually see it on the track at Pocono. This 34 team and Todd Gilliland not running anywhere close to how they should. I don't know if I don't think it's necessarily a front row wide problem. Todd Gilliland, though, definitely not having a summer this year like he had last year. I think it's a slam dunk that Cinnamon Toast Crunch 17 of Buescher is going to be maybe 20 spots ahead of Gilliland. I'm not giving the 34 any chance to advance past this one.
Well, it's funny. We were talking about the favorite. We were going to do like a cereal bracket or something like that. And I think Cinnamon Toast Crunch would have to go pretty far into that bracket if we were talking about
Elite Eight at least.
At least. Well, for me, I think it would definitely be in the semifinals. So we'd have to see where it ends up. But I do like Chris Buescher, obviously, out of those 2. And Chris Buescher pretty much makes it all the way to the final 4 for me. So and you're right. This is kind of fun to watch guys like McDowell and Allmendinger, who Allmendinger says he doesn't care, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure if he does move on to the next round, or at least to the semifinals, he may start to care. Me and Gibbs, we'll talk about him in a second, but yeah, I like Buescher out of this Buescher Gilliland one for sure.
Yeah, Buescher for sure there. The McDowell Allmendinger, though, that's one that you do have some coin placed on according to our show sheet here. And again, no shock who you're betting on here.
My spirit driver. I can't not go with AJ Allmendinger. Plus 125 over Michael McDowell over there on DraftKings. Look, Allmendinger's a sneaky good super speedway driver, and he's a super sneaky driver here on this particular track. In 16 starts, he's got 4 top 10s and 1 top 5. Last year in the spring, earlier this year in the spring, he was a 14th place finisher. In 2023, and it finished 3rd here. 16th in the spring of 2023. And then, before that, not very good in the 47. But in the 16, he's had at least circled around the top 15. Now, for Michael McDowell, I get it. I 1,000% get it, because he's on the pole. He's been on the pole twice in a row heading into that. But, he finished 8th in the first year that he got the pole, and then 22nd the next year that he got the pole. He finished 13th last season. Granted, most of those were better than AJ Allmendinger, but the thing about it is that AJ Allmendinger is, he doesn't care. Michael McDowell, like I said, he starts well, but he doesn't finish well. He's more prone, in my opinion, to get into something. Average finish here of 25.8 than AJ Allmendinger's a 17.3. So obviously AJ Allmendinger takes care of himself better than Michael McDowell on these tracks.
Yeah, I was looking for a way to go with McDowell here, but you're right. The stats for Allmendinger and then the risk of McDowell just a little too far. Gibbs Haley, you mentioned it too. I'm on Justin Haley on this plus 120 via Caesars there. It's not that Haley's run well. It's that Ty Gibbs just finding every way possible to just not make things work. And I don't have anything on this matchup, but I think that the longest odds that I found on an underdog, I think it was even higher than Hamlin and Ty Dillon, was Zane Smith over Austin Cindric. I think was something at like plus 220, something ridiculous, because Cindric just has been the king on super speedways, as we'll wax poetic about a little later.
Yeah, and for me, obviously, this is a Cindric. I love Zane Smith, but yeah, Austin Cindric, Penske, we already talked about how good they're going to be. As far as Gibbs Haley is concerned, you know where I stand on that one. If you've listened to this show for 5 seconds, you know that I can't take Ty Gibbs for anything.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think in terms of who makes it out of this, I forget if you already said or not, it's either Cindric or Buescher. Whoever wins that matchup, assuming one of them doesn't get upset, is my easy Final Four pick from here.
Yeah, Buescher's mine too. It's going to be Brian Buescher at the end of that one.
Makes sense. All right, so you said you got Byron winning the whole thing, right?
Indeed, I do. Yeah, it was hard because I as I was going through it, I was like, really? And then I would go through again, and it's at 24 again. I was like, okay, well, we're here, right? So it just, I didn't go and set out saying this person's going to win. Like I really did take matchup by matchup and break it all down stat wise. And then by the end of it, William Byron came out in the end. So that's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, I feel like when I fill out a bracket here sometime tomorrow, I'm sure that 24 will probably be going quite a ways. But it all depends on what happens at the newly christened EchoPark Speedway, formerly known as Atlanta. Still close enough to Atlanta, even though you're right. Hampton, Georgia, I believe, is where it's at. In terms of the track, 1.5 mile super speedway, track's been getting a little racier every time we've come here since the reconfiguration. The primary comp at Daytona, secondary comp is Talladega, and it's pretty simple. It's going to race mostly like a super speedway, even though definitely a lot of differences between the big two and what we've been seeing here lately at Atlanta.
Yeah, and obviously, like I said, there's the people here, or the guys have figured out how to race this track. And what's crazy is that as you watch it, the first couple of races, there was staggering number of laps led by the leader, right? And then as the races progressed, people have figured out they don't want to be in the lead. So they'll give up the lead and they'll actively try to switch and not lead this race so as to save gas, so as to not have to be on a alternate pit strategy. There's a lot of stuff that's playing out that wasn't playing out at the beginning. So if you look at some of the earlier Atlanta races, they don't look like the recent Atlanta races, and it's because these guys are starting to figure this out now.
And I almost wonder if that'll make this weekend look a lot different. It'll be fun to watch as we break down some trends here before we get into the rest of our bets. In qualifying, first, this is the 8th next-gen race since the reconfiguration. It matched up perfectly. The first next-gen racer was the first on the reconfiguration. That's always so convenient when we're looking at this stuff. In qualifying, this is not even counting the metric lineups of 2020 through 2022. Ford has the last 6 pole winners here, and that includes McDowell, as you mentioned, sweeping the poles last year. So and front row hasn't had the same qualifying speed. I'd be shocked if it's not one of those 4 Penske-powered cars on the pole. In terms of your winners, 4 Chevrolet winners here. Byron has done it twice, Chase Elliott and Daniel Suarez. Joey Logano's got Ford's only 2 wins here. And then Christopher Bell got the Toyota win, their first on the new configuration this past spring. In terms of where the winners started, 2 wins from pole. Then you have P7, 12, 18, 23, and then Bell this spring from 32nd. Feels like that kind of matches up with the super speedway trend of course, you'd love to start up front, but really it doesn't matter where you're going to start. You're going to have the opportunity to cycle up to the front, even if you're out back.
Yeah, and all you got to do is catch the right line at the right time, right? That's really all it is about drafting races is knowing where the energy is coming from and being able to jump up that line and block it and get to the front. And honestly, as we saw in that one Atlanta race where it was Buescher, Suarez, and Busch, all three, was it Blaney, Buescher, and yeah, it was the closest finish there. All 3 of those cars, right? They managed to find the right momentum at the right time to get them where they were. And that's all it takes at Atlanta and any drafting track.
Could be a spot for a first-time winner, too. Hasn't happened on the new configuration, but it's happened 6 times in history. Most recently, Carl Edwards and Kevin Harvick, bit of a throwback there. And as you mentioned, close finishes, 4 margins of victory at this track, less than 0.03 of a second, including that 3-wide thriller a couple years back. 4 out of 7 next-gen races here have had 10-plus cautions, including 2 of the last 3, so could bet the over on the yellows there. In terms of overtimes, only 2 have gone to overtime, but it's been the most recent 2. So late cautions could be a thing too. As we had this past year, the iFantasyRace.com Asterisk Mark Driver of the Week is Josh Berry. Crashed on the last lap, was a top 5 car until then, but finished 25th with that last lap crash that took away what potentially could have been another 3-wide thriller there. Led the second most laps with 56, had the second best average running position at 5.6, and was 5th at the start of the overtime. Fell back, and then was involved in that crash on the last lap, leading to his poor result. You're right, though, the stats for Barry, even before that, didn't really show that he was going to be real good at Atlanta. I just feel like that Penske power under the hood, I'm really, really, really high on the Fords and Team Penske this week.
I would like to see him finish that one, right? Obviously, it would have been nice for him to finish that one, and because then we would have had a better gear on what he would do in the 21. But I think that also goes to show that you just never know what's going to happen on a super speedway anyways, so you have to take that with a grain of salt. I know that we love to give out these bets and we love to give out our picks based on all of the analysis that we do. But as we've found out time and time again at Daytona, at Talladega, at Atlanta, all of that research can go up in flames with one person stepping out sideways and taking the rest of the field with them.
And that really is all it takes. And that's what makes betting it so hard. You know, a lot of my card was in those in-season tournament matchups, but we do still, of course, have some general props, and we'll pull it into the parking garage for those. And as I kind of talked about before we went away there's one place to start, and it's Austin Cindric and Team Penske. Cindric is without a doubt the best super speedway racer in the series right now. In our model, he's the only A grade. The model kind of falls off a cliff a little bit because you have so much chaos at the super speedways. Even if you have guys run well, when you throw in that average finish, it'll kind of drop you like a brick. But Cindric at a 90+% there, the A in the model. And he's been in contention in every super speedway race this year. Led the most laps in the Daytona 500, ended up in the top 10. Running up front in the spring in Atlanta, he and Larson get together, and it didn't work out so well for the two. And then he won Talladega, finally got that second super speedway win after being the 2022 Daytona 500 champ. This was a wild stat for me too. Cindric has led laps in each of the last 11 races at drafting tracks and super speedways. He's a guy that knows how to put himself up front, and I think that it's Cindric at 10-1. Grateful to even have this number, honestly, with just how well he's run at the super speedways. I was worried he might be starting to get into Hill Love territory, but at 10-1, I love it on the 2 for this week.
Yeah, when you start to get anything below or like plus 500, plus 400, you know you're starting to get a little too out of range. And that kind of leads into a little of the philosophical our conversations that we were having in a Discord earlier too, where it's like, where are you betting to? Are you betting to win money? Are you betting to have sweat? What are you betting on? But 10-1, obviously for him, is a great number. I like it. And yeah, you can never count him out, especially Penske Power, because I'm on another one too.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Go right ahead with the Blaney outright. I certainly love it too.
This is getting a little lower than what you probably are comfortable with, but Ryan Blaney plus 850 on Caesar is still not bad. 8.5-1. If you're looking at any sort of proof that you need, you can go find it at iFantasyRace.com. Our friends over there, Ryan is really on Blaney because guess what? He is the top of the charts in average speed ranking on this track, 7.7 average speed rank, which is better than William Byron at 8.1, AJ Allmendinger at 8.7, Christopher Bell at 9.4. He also has the best average finish here in the next gen era at the EchoPark Speedway now at 6.7, which look at 6.7, right? That's fantastic. He's got a string of top 10 finishes that goes all the way back to the spring or the fall rather of 2022. But you look at the next best average finish here, and that's Chase Elliott at 10.5. That's almost 4 full spots. Normally, you don't see that in a regular track. There may be like 1 or 2 places differences between the top 2. This means that he is so good at this track that he pretty much is heads and tails above the rest of the field. And Chase Elliott has a race missing out of that too. So really, Daniel Suarez and AJ Allmendinger at 11 are the next 2 on that one. But yeah, I mean, finishes a 5th, 7th, 9th, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. For Ryan Blaney, you know what's missing from that? A win. I think as well as he's been running lately, I think that's well within his grasp for this week.
Yeah, and I had forgotten Blaney hasn't won here yet. When I was putting together the trends, I thought, oh, Ford has 2 wins. Okay, Logano won last fall, and then it must have been Blaney that won the other one. Hasn't happened yet. It would not shock me at all. It would be really surprising if anybody other than one of the 4 Penske-powered cars wins this race. You've got certainly an unconventional pick, but I don't even know if I can argue that much against it, because if there's going to be a guy that pulls off something like this gentleman is going to pull off, it would be this kid for sure in that number 87.
We've seen Justin Haley win a race in a super speedway. We've seen Austin Cindric win as a rookie in a super speedway race, right? We've seen this story before where somebody who we weren't even on just comes out and wins this race because they're in the right place at the right time. Or maybe there was rain, who knows? I don't know. But for me, that somebody is Connor Zilisch, right? Making his first super speedway start here, 65-1 to win this race. Why not, right? I mean, obviously we know that he was brought in for the road courses and the ovals, still had to catch up. He hasn't. I'm not going to read you his stats because it's not going to back me up, so I'm just not going to do it. But what I will say is that this is a super speedway in which there are 65-1s that can win this race. He's in Trackhouse equipment. Suarez obviously has won in Trackhouse equipment. Chastain is fast all the time. He's got 2 great drafting partners in the Trackhouse cars. I mean, the kid's got it set, right? All he's got to do is stick with these guys, run around the front, and pick the third line, and be there at the end and win 65-1. I love it.
Man, even SVG has figured out how to lead laps at super speedways in some of his limited stuff. And I do like this because Trackhouse has been so strong here. You mentioned it, the 99 having won here before. The 1 car running fast. Like I said, I tried to bet against Chastain, and I couldn't figure it out. The 1 car's run so well here. Even some longer odds, as Bob says, out there in the Delaware area around Dover, 75-1 for Zilisch to claim the win there. And like I said, if anybody were to do it in this sort of situation, it would absolutely be Connor Zilisch because he's just continued to defy expectations. And you mentioned it, the previous stats, it's a goose egg, in the Cup Series, hasn't really done much, hasn't put much together, only a couple of Xfinity starts. But his most recent super speedway race, coming down the back straightaway, half a lap to go, where was Connor Zilisch? Leading the race. Got a little too hard of a push. Knocked him in the wall at Talladega. If he's in that situation again, he'll certainly hope to get a more kind push for sure. And hopefully it is a Trackhouse teammate behind him. We have faith that it will be one up toward the front. You've got a little more faith in this guy than I do. But again, one of those where I didn't have the bet, but I certainly can't sit here and argue with you, especially at this number.
Well, when I talk about Trackhouse, you talk about Daniel Suarez, who's actually won here recently, right, in 2024 in the spring. But 3 of his 4 finishes in the last 4 races on this track have been not just top 3 finishes, but top 2 finishes. Earlier this year, obviously, a 33rd place finish, but I don't think that's indicative of really. And again, that just goes to show that it's super speedway racing, right? Second, first, second, 33rd. If there's any other super speedway or drafting track stats, that's exactly it. So I think he can get back up there again, and hell, he'll push his teammate to a win if he needs to, because that's just the kind of guy Daniel Suarez is. But yeah, for me, plus 850 for a guy that's done this 3 out of 4 times on this track, that's an insane number, and I think you have to jump on that.
And it's the same as your Ankrum argument that has kind of faded the last couple weeks, but I still go with it. If a guy's going to hit you in the face 7 out of 9 times, you don't think he's going to get you the next time? And I've got faith in Suarez too. Only for a top 10 though. It started at plus 125 on Caesars. I added a 30% boost that I got to this because I do have faith in Suarez. And man, I feel like sometimes our bets just kind of aren't in sync. It's nice to be on the same page with you on the 99. You already talked about it. We've already talked about it. Atlanta been strong for Suarez and Trackhouse in general. You threw out the numbers, they're crashing the spring, but it goes almost even further back than that stretch. Had the 2-1-2, had a DVP incident, but then a P6 and a P4 before that to start off the next gen era at Atlanta. Super Speedways 2, P9 at Talladega, was able to make his way through, keep himself safe there. I do think it's going to be a good day for Suarez. The only way I will defer with you on this also is I don't think he'll push a teammate to a win. I think he needs that win. And if it's Chastain 1 and Suarez 2, I think you're going to see Suarez probably move that number 1 out of the way. Even with SVG has a win too, so I'll move him out of the way. And Zilisch is part-time, so Suarez checkers or wreckers with the guy in front of him at the end of the race.
Nah, that's true. I was just kind of hoping for our 65-1 point that he'd be a very nice guy and push his teammate to a win. But you're right, he probably wouldn't. But you can let my little fairy tale sit for just a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt about it. One more top 10 for you here, Rod.
Yeah, Justin Haley. Actually, if you look on iFantasyRace.com, he is the 10th best driver in terms of average finish on this track, 14.9. He only has 2 top 10 finishes in the next gen era. I get it. Or 7th place in the fall of 2022. But here's the thing, too, right? So I said the fall of 2022, he got a 7th place finish. The fall of 23, he got an 8th place finish. And then in the fall of 24, it was a 12th place finish. So something about the fall race Justin Haley likes better than he likes in the spring race. He does have an 11th place finish in the spring of 2022 as well. So Justin Haley, like I said, 10th best driver in terms of average finish on this track. I kind of like that for a top 10, especially at 4-1, right? It's not that far fetched for him to get there. And the odds kind of are a little off on that.
Yeah, we know that Spire has speed. And I feel like how quickly we forget just a few years ago, who was up front every single Xfinity race at Daytona and Talladega. It was that Colleague 11 to Justin Haley. I don't know off the top of my head how many wins he had, but he had to have won at least 3 or 4 of those things, just always finding his way up through there. We're back in Colleague's days of, we're going to control the end of this race and you guys fight it out. It would be Justin Haley ended up taking the checker flag.
Yeah, and so that's why I'm saying, like, it put him in the Spire equipment, too. If everybody's all gaga over Hocevar, Justin Haley's there, too, and Justin Haley is just as good a driver, if not better, than Hocevar, especially on super speedways.
Yeah, I bet if all 3 Spire cars ended up at the front, it probably would go down kind of like we saw it with Colleague. McDowell's leading, Hocevar second. They're going to get together, and Justin Haley wins the race. That'd be fun to watch. And that certainly would rile up a lot of cards. We had plenty of matchups from the in-season tournament, but we each picked a race matchup as well, specific to this one. And I just have to hedge myself against Cindric here. Kyle Busch at even money was my favorite way to do it. If I was betting a lot more this week, I'm taking my wins from Pocono. I was trying to handicap this, and it's like, well, it's a super speedway. I threw a little bit on the in-season tournament stuff, but then in terms of general cards, I wanted to keep it light, but I had to hedge myself over Cindric because otherwise he'd be half my card, and Penske would be the other quarter of it that wasn't. KFB, pretty good stats here, led laps in 4 of 5 races with RCR here, and his finishes P10, P3, P5, P7, and P7. So I don't know why I'm not on his top 10 also, in case anything goes wrong with Cindric, or maybe it's one of those where they're both kind of running top 10 up front. The 8 car at even money, he's a guy who I feel confident in. If Cindric doesn't win the thing, why not Kyle Busch?
Yeah, the only thing to me is Kyle Busch is that it's just I feel like we've sort of run out. This will be the track. I'll give you that, Elliot. This will be the track. If something happens for Busch, this will be the track for it to happen. So that is the only saving grace, I think, for him. And he's got to have this thing. Cody even acknowledged it earlier. He's got this circled on his calendar because he's running out of opportunities, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, and so is everybody else, which is going to make this race all the more intriguing that you're going to have a lot of guys that are suddenly realizing we're running out of time to win races and they're going to have to make it happen. And one of those guys, I was saying a couple minutes ago, it's not Rod Villagomez if he's betting on this particular driver, but my Lord, you've got a Hocevar bet this week? What in the world, man?
Listen to me very carefully, Hocevarians out there. This is for you. I'm finally caving in to your guys' side of this, and if he fails it, it's on you. It's not on me. You guys clamor week after week saying, why are you so bad on Hocevar? Okay, well, guess what? Now I'm on him. So if I'm on him and he loses, is it my fault? Tell me. I'm going to take him over Bubba Wallace. And honestly, this is just who's worse at this point, right? Because we know Hocevar, he has speed. He could have won if. There's Hocevar, this, that, and the next, right? But the fact of the matter is something happens. He either causes himself to have something happen or something happens around him and karma gets him. I don't know. There's 1.5 million things that have prevented Carson Hocevar from having the finish that he deserves. Well, same thing can be said for Bubba Wallace lately, right? He did have a 6th place at Nashville, a 4th place at Michigan, and a 12th at Mexico City. So, some good finishes there, but last week at Pocono, he crashed out. Charlotte, 35th, Kansas, 33rd, Texas, 33rd, and he crashed out of 4 of the last 7 races. There is a very visible head hang for Bubba Wallace, and I don't know that he can handle a super speedway where he's usually pretty good. But Atlanta, it's kind of a different story for Bubba Wallace. He did have 2 top 10 finishes in the last 3 races, but 29th, 25th, 27th, 14th, 13th, 14th. So really, ultimately, Elliot, this is just me telling the Carson Hocevar fans out there, this is on you. I'm taking this bet, but this is on you if it doesn't cash.
And like you said with Kyle Busch, I think this is the time, this is the place to do it. In terms of Hocevar, we know that he's had that race-winning speed, or at least the speed to run up front. Hasn't worked out. They're having trouble putting full races together. But I feel like Hocevar, the fire's under his rear end a little bit. Who knows how long the speed's going to last? Eventually maybe Hendrick takes those, they find something new. They're not going to share it as much with Spire because Hendrick still needs to get 2 of their cars into the playoffs. So, who gives a what about Spire? Hocevar is going to go out there and race probably more aggressively than anybody else. He knows that this might be, maybe in the next 9 races, generously, maybe he's got 3 more shots to win. And that's probably pretty generous. That's giving him Daytona and then maybe a shot at a road course or an oval. I just don't really see it happening. If Hocevar is going to go out there and win a race, this might be the best opportunity that he has the rest of the regular season. If he's got the speed to go up there and you get to those last few laps, no one's messing with that 77. He's gonna have that cowboy hat on and pull out the horns also.
That cowboy hat kills me.
Ride the Dente, All right, a couple specials before we move on. In this one here, I'm calling it my Big Mo Trio Parlay. Nobody on the planet Earth probably remembers this other than me. But it's back in, this must have been 2006 or 7 when Dale Jr.'s name was on everything. It was also on a Palmer candy bar that was called Big Mo. They had a peanut butter and a creamy caramel. I remember it tasting pretty good, but of course it didn't last very long. But in any case, this was inspired by my drive home from Pocono, listening to some Dirty Mo content and realizing that one of the things Dirty Mo do, the little segment they do every week, is they pick a top manufacturer parlay where they pick a top Chevy, top Ford, top Toyota. I figured this was a chance for me to try that. And I picked it up at a number of plus 36,100. That's the Bowman, the top Chevy, Keselowski, the top Ford, and Hamlin, the top Toyota. I have parlayed together for the week at those odds. The 48 and the 6, they're both getting close to that desperation mode I was just talking about for a win. For Brad, he probably only has the super speedways. For the 48, maybe the super speedways, maybe the road courses, maybe Dover, maybe nowhere. That is the scary part. Where I talked about it earlier, the 6 has P2s with RFK at all 3 of these super speedways. I think only 1 in Atlanta, though. I think it was 2 at Talladega. 48 has the top 10 runs at Daytona and Talladega. Ran up front a little bit in the last couple of races here, but it usually gets involved in some sort of crash, some other driver's incident, got put back in the mid-20s on strategy, got smacked by Briscoe and Buescher, knocked him out there. And in terms of Hamlin for the top Toyota, he was P6 here in the spring, and I know he's one of the guys that definitely cares about the in-season challenge. And regardless of all his wins, and even though he's not the super speedway king he used to be in the late stage Gen 6, I still think Denny Hamlin running up front makes all the sense in the world. It's definitely a longer odds parlay. I didn't pick the 3 favorites here, but it's one that I'm confident in. And give me that stack of Big Mo's and have a snack. And with the Busch Light Lime here. Shout out to Seth and see if this one can hit on Saturday night.
Absolutely love it. And Denny Hamlin's going to have an extra gas tank in that car because he's not running out of gas at all. He's going to outlast everybody for that one. Love it.
These guys are really learning how to save fuel here. We'll give you the roulette wheel a spin before we move out of the Cup Series.
So we're going to go winning car number. One of my favorite bets of all time, over 21.5. This is the under is heavily nuked because of, obviously all the favorites underneath like Hamlin and Blaney and all of that. So this is just take the over side of this and hope for the best. Obviously, I've got Connor Zilisch already at 87, who's over that. And if you look at 2, you got Joey Logano, you got William Byron on the other end of this. You got the Legacy Motor Club folks over this. Tyler Reddick, if he accidentally wins a race. You got Alex Bowman, who Elliot loves as well. If this is Ty Gibbs's turn to win a race, then you got him. Obviously, you got Daniel Suarez and Carson Hocevar and Michael McDowell in there too. So, look, there's some decent cars that are over this number, and all it takes is for somebody in the front to spin out, and one of these cars can be right there with them.
Yeah, hey, you get both the rookies too, Riley Herbst and Shane Van Gisbergen. We know they're going to run great on the super speedways for sure. I couldn't make a Dillon Brothers joke. You picked the over 21.5, so I had to go with those guys.
My bad. Yeah, no, look, you could do that, but I don't know if I'm. But see, that's what happens. That's the great part about it, right? If something happens and that happens, then you're covered.
Yeah, with how crazy things have been, I wouldn't put it past Riley Herbst going out there and winning one. That's it for the Cup Series. As we move on to Xfinity, I fully turned to the dark side here, almost fully. The lowest numbers are on Austin Hill and Jesse Love. Every super speedway, every time. And I'm going to start here with Jesse Love, slightly more favorable at plus 450 on Bet365. I also have him at plus 160 in a matchup over Hill. We know an RCR car is going to win the race. We know it's going to be either the 2 or the 21. It is inevitable. It's what's going to happen. I don't remember if they put out the team to win the race for the Xfinity. I forgot I mentioned I have the Penske at 2-1, and I would put on RCR even a minus 200. I'd probably take it. That's just how it's going to happen. But I think that Love is basically even with Hill now, if not even maybe an upper hand on some tracks. for Love in his career. He's led laps in 8 of 9 drafting track races, 1 Daytona this year, 3 straight Atlanta poles. Hasn't been able to get the win, but has been on pole every start here. I feel like he's going to check that box of winning on every drafting track this weekend. I'll take the 2. You're going to go on the other side of me here for the RCR outright.
And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Love, and you know that too. Everybody knows that I love Love, but it's inevitable. I mean, the guy has won almost every single time that we've been here in this configuration. Austin Hill, outright plus 230. I know, I get it. It's not sexy, and it's not one of those things where content providers, it's not hard to pick the favorite, Rod. No, it's not. But sometimes you have to convince people that it's okay to bet the favorite because everybody wants to get cute and fun and pick long shots, and that's fine. As content creators, that's what we do. But we're also here to help you win money. And Austin Hill's made you that money over the course of his career in the Xfinity Series. 4 wins on this track already in this configuration. So you can't not bet Austin Hill outright. Now, granted, put your insurance bets out there because it's super speedway. You have to. That's why you bet the Loves. That's why you bet the Zilisches in the Cup Series. But you have to bet Austin Hill because he's going to punch you in the face again. It's just a matter of will he connect?
Just got to hope they have some sort of problem or that the 2 car can get past him and the 21 can't make it by. It is going to be an RCR car, but I do like this matchup that you got too looking over at the Ford camp.
The matchup is Sheldon Creed over Sam Mayer. I won't bore you with too many details on this one because obviously you know that Sheldon Creed has king of the second place finish, but for some reason lately in this Haas factory car, he's not necessarily as good as he used to be. And Sam Mayer now on the other end is actually enjoying a better season than Sheldon Creed overall. And, you know, for Sam Mayer, he's going to be taking care of himself and he's going to actually finish this race better than Sheldon Creed because Sheldon Creed has just been falling on hard times lately. And it just feels like that 2 car that 2 car force of habit. See, this is like calling EchoPark Atlanta. The 00 car just hasn't been what that 2 car used to be for him. So I'm going to take Mayer over Creed.
Yeah, I certainly dig it. Still waiting on Creed to get that first win. I haven't bet on it in a while. Maybe this year's the year. We should have time for a couple of Truck Series bets. Rod, you've got an outright. I don't have an outright for up there at Lime Rock Park, but this is one of the guys I was certainly thinking of.
Yeah, Jordan Taylor in the outright section, plus 650. No real stats to back this up, but he is in the 7 truck, which we've seen win races already this season. And you know, he's a ARCA or Super Sports Car Series driver, one that we haven't heard of before. And honestly, if there is a driver that can win on a course like this Lime Rock course, which we really don't have a whole lot of time to break down, this is a brand new track. Nobody's been on this. The Truck Series has never been on this before, and nobody knows how to race this. So for a guy like Jordan Taylor to drive a truck like the 7 and come out in brand new territory, I feel like he's got the truck to do it. No one else has a leg up on him. And I think it's plus 650. This is a great time to take a chance on a guy that nobody knows about yet.
Yeah, he just has that 1 Cup start when Chase Elliott broke his leg filled in at Coda. I don't think he finished all that great. He qualified top 10, so we know he knows how to wheel it. But you're right. It is those guys with the road course specialization that's really going to help. And that leads me toward Connor Mosack for a top 5, plus 325 via Bet365. He's also got some momentum on his side. Best finish of the season last week at Pocono, got a P6 in that number 81 for MHR. He's got plenty of highlights at the Xfinity level on road courses. The Truck Series, not so much. But 2023, a P8 at Portland and P5 at Watkins Glen that year in Sam Hunt Racing Equipment. And then the JRM number 8, I've got, of course, it's not in my shot. I've got the front bumper of his car from Chicago, the part of it at least, from a P6 finish there in JRM Equipment, the number 88. It's his first full-time shot to show his road course skills, coming off some momentum. I definitely dig some Mosack here to at least go out there and run top 5. I think for a win, you know, Corey Haim's not necessarily a big road course guy. If it's not Haim, it would kind of shock me. But some of these road course guys, they definitely do have the specialization. But I'm not giving all of them the benefit of the doubt here. I'm going to take Lane Riggs, last week's winner, over Cam Waters at minus 110 over on Caesars. The pressure's off for Lane after Pocono. We talked to him. We know he hasn't had a lot of road course experience, but he's excited to go out there and just have some fun on the road courses, get a little better. Had a good run on hand at Coda last year before having some mechanical issues. I think he said he was running second at the time before he got knocked back there. For Cam Waters, of course, it's one of those deals where the data's not there for either of them, but the data's not there for the Supercars driver either. Had a cup race that didn't go all that well at Sonoma that he crashed out of. A couple of truck races on ovals. And of course, it's on ovals. It's going to be tough for anybody their first couple of times on ovals. He's the favorite in this matchup at -120. But I feel like that's a little misguided. It's just because, hey, he's run on the road courses and people think everyone's got a chance to be SVG. I feel like SVG was a unicorn, and that's why he's not only in the Cup Series full-time now, but he's a Cup Series playoff winner, won by 16 seconds at Mexico City. It's not what you're going to see out of Cam Waters, and I don't even think that he beats Lane Riggs. I think you talk about a brawl, I think that 34 will bring the punch.
Well, and here's the thing too. This is not a traditional road course at all. This is a oval that looks like it's gotten punched in a couple of places. So this will be a unique hybrid of the two. And I think, yeah, Riggs definitely will still have the upper hand because this isn't a true road course.
All right, we'll round it out with your last placement prop here for the Truck Series.
Well, I'm going to go Ben Rhodes, top 5 finish plus 350. It's been a rough go for Ben Rhodes. Obviously, we know that he feels like he should be better than he is, and everybody feels like he should be better than he is. 14.9 his average finish this year, but he does have a 4th place at Michigan, a 6th place at Texas. And to me, I think, like I said, this isn't going to be a true road course race. So I think Ben Rhodes is bound for a good finish here again.
Yeah, at the moment, too, with Rhodes, they switched out his crew chief a couple weeks ago, if not even just last week. At the moment, ThorSport as a whole, I don't think there's a single ThorSport truck that's locked into the playoffs yet. Normally, they're one of the Truck Series powers, and it just hasn't been the case. Matt Crafton is on, he's over the hill, I'll say, hasn't won in quite a long time, has a championship without a win, but that's not going to happen this year. Ben Rhodes had those good couple of years, has a couple of titles out of it, but again, I don't know if it's just something with the ThorSport equipment or something like that. I just don't know what's kind of holding them back this year. A top 5 for Rhodes at a place like this is good, but you're just not seeing the race-winning feel out of these ThorSport trucks this year.
No, and it's sad, but Ben Rhodes should get it done this week.
Yeah, I don't hate it for a top 5. Notice neither of us betting Tyler Ankrum. We're both kind of off of that. I think the last 2 or 3 weeks in the Truck Series kind of got shot in the foot there on that Ankrum bet. But in any case, shout out to everyone. I know we were getting behind on some of the comments there. Backup driver for NASCAR Le Mans, important to note there. I think that was talking about Jordan Taylor. It'll be fun to watch these guys. Fun to go back to Lime Rock and everything there. As it's been a fun show. Oh, what I was going to mention, the people in West Tennessee, Saturday night, 8 o'clock, you're going to have to look at the live markets for the Cup Series. Go ahead, do a shout out there. Shout out to everyone in the racing family. And Rod, of course, best ways to support you, NASCAR Gambling Podcast, and So You Like Sports. Always love what you got going on over there, man.
Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, definitely follow me there and take the ride with me.
Yep, and of course, follow us on Twitter at RJ Villagomez, at EHicks39. I don't know if I mentioned the price. It's just $3.99 a month or $36 for the year. Now that we're about halfway through, I got to talk Seth into maybe we get a little discount here, half the year at $15 or something. Don't take that as gospel, but a conversation we definitely should have here. As we appreciate everyone rolling on down the back road with us. Been a fun show. Shout out to everyone with us live. Shout out to everyone with us listening afterward. Going to be a fun weekend at both EchoPark Speedway and Lime Rock as we are ready to roll on down. Best of luck with your bets as we roll out for the night. We will see you again next time on the Backroad.